Welcome to the Elevated Hope Project, where hope rises, lives are transformed, and second chances become new beginnings. Powered by Elevated Education in our schools, East Point High School, Accelerated Learning Center, and Elevated Academy. This podcast shines a light on the resilience, courage, and potential within every student story. Today, we highlight the journey of Dr. Kellie Burns, who is the Superintendent of the Yavapai County Accommodation District and is super passionate about anti-human trafficking and is very involved in Yavapai County with that. So let's just dive in. Kellie, welcome. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So, a couple things that I try to remember when we start these is first, asking you, what is something you're grateful for right now?
My husband.
Good answer.
Absolutely. My strength, my honey-do list.
That's amazing to have that support system and unity. Yeah, love that. Let's get into your story a little bit. Where did you grow up and what was your family dynamic?
I grew up in Sturgis, South Dakota. I was raised by a single mom. Well, my dad was around, but here and there. And but great family. I had a great grandmother that took very good care of us. Went to high school in Sturgis, was born in Sturgis, graduated from high school in Sturgis, went to Black Hill State University in Spearfish, which was about 17 miles from Sturgis, and got my degree in elementary education. I actually had a baby just out of high school and thought, I probably should just do teaching so that I can have my weekends and summers off. And that's where it started.
Yeah.
My husband worked at McDonald's for about 9 years in Sturgis. Met my husband when he walked in for a job. I said, I get him. Took me a year, but I got him. And I've not let go.
Like you claimed him?
I claimed him.
Nice.
Said, lay off, girls.
Stay back. And then what brought you to Arizona eventually?
Teaching jobs.
Okay.
At the time, Sturgis was in Meade County. Meade County was the lowest paying school district in South Dakota, and South Dakota was number 50 on the list for teacher pay. So there was one position open in Sturgis for teaching. I applied for it. There were 10 applicants, and the lady that got it had 10 years of experience and a master's degree. So we packed up and moved our little family to Holbrook, Arizona, and that's where I started in 2000.
Okay.
In fourth grade.
And then you eventually, worked your way up to being superintendent and earning your doctorate degree. Tell us a little bit about that.
So after we left Holbrook, we left in 2005 and moved to Seligman. My husband's a DPS officer, and they had remote duty available there. And I just fell into this little tiny, beautiful little community that had a fourth grade teaching position open. So I was able to get that job. I taught there for 9 years, and I had a phenomenal boss in Seligman who she was there for several years and then decided in 2014 she was going to come down to Prescott to work at the Accommodation School District. And so she asked me to come with her.
Nice.
And I took a $10,000 pay cut and leapt into it. She eventually left to go live with her parents in Tucson to take care of them. And the position opened up for me. And I took over as interim and then eventually got the position full time. So I've been the superintendent, they used to call it district executive officer, for 10 years now.
Okay.
10 years. Well, it was 10 years on February 1st.
Congratulations.
A sign of a really great leader who will pull a follower with them and a huge pay cut like that. She must have been a great leader.
She was phenomenal. Kristen Rex is her name. She's pretty well known around the state.
So you transitioned from elementary education into alternative high school education, serving what's called at-risk youth, at-risk students here in the state of Arizona. What was that transition like?
Petrifying.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to beat me up. They hated us at first because the prior administration was pretty like military kind of style, on them. And when two women walk in that were elementary teachers, it becomes a little more coddly and warm. And so it took about 6 months for the students to go, oh, you're not the bad guy. You're not going to treat us like, military or prisoners or something like that. There was a lot of things that went on there that we didn't agree with theory-wise, and we changed that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And ever since then, the atmosphere is fantastic. We painted the walls different colors. They were a pretty drab brown, and we just changed the environment to purple and blue and yellow and
happy colors,
friendly things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that alone right there changed a lot of the atmosphere, but it's that developing relationships with kids that really, really worked.
Well, and I think that's that relational piece is something that so often gets missed. They'll work through these systems just being, as cliche as it is, just being a number, right? They're just a widget working through a system. And when they enter into a school where it's actually warm and inviting and the staff wants to have a relationship with them, it's almost like shocking, like, whoa, what are you doing? And then it becomes about like building trust, right? Because a lot of the students we serve, trust is the currency that they operate off of, and they're not used to it. What do you think it is about, described the previous environment as militant or kind of feeling like it's prison? What about that stifles kind of the flourishing of the students that you serve?
Being treated almost, I don't want to say less than human is too harsh, but they would, to keep drugs out of the school, they would line them up in the hallway. They would have a canine show up. They would have them take their shoes off in the classroom and leave their backpacks. They'd line them up in the hallway, and they'd have a police canine, come down and sniff each one of them. And I live with one of those. My husband's a canine. Those are scary animals. So right there, the fear right there, especially if you're afraid of dogs, is not going to work. And then they would go into the classrooms and search backpacks and things like that. And I recognize and I understand what their thought was behind it. A lot of the men that were in charge of that were military men. And they didn't have an education history. And, but right away we saw this is not okay. Witnessing it for the first time, I went, I can't be part of this. And so we started changing the atmosphere of that, and slowly but surely all of the staff that were involved in that fell off, like they would quit.
Yeah.
And we started filling it with people that thought more, in the realm of how we feel, the kids should be treated. So
out of curiosity, it's still a reality, right? That
absolutely,
that students and drugs sometimes meet up. So how do you handle it? How do you keep tabs on it and still establish trust with the students?
Relationships, being real with them. Like I mentioned, Michael DeLeon and his Steered Straight campaign, he's coming in again to teach them about, he was a drug user and was in prison for a lot of years, and he's got a very moving story. But getting them in touch with real people and then empowering them to make their own decisions. I just had a conversation with them the other day. I meet with them every morning. And I said, I know that you're going to do sneaky things. I was a teenager. I was not a perfect teenager. I know that you're going to do sneaky things. And understand that when adults are speaking to you, we're speaking to you to keep you safe. But a lot of times you're not going to listen to that. So if I can give you the wherewithal or the ability to think beyond that and to help you make decisions, that will help with their decisions. I hope. That's the theory behind that. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
They're sneaking vapes in. This is an epidemic across our schools. And if it's not nicotine, it's marijuana. And it's undetectable because people that manufacture those have made them so that they're undetectable, and they're very appealing to children. And so they've become victims of this, obviously with drugs and things like that too. But speaking with them, making sure that they know that you care, and building the relationships is what's going to help with that. Yeah.
And I love what you said about just helping them learn the skills to make their own decisions, because that's what they need as growing into adulthood. If they can't make their own decisions and there's no fear, then it all kind of falls apart.
Absolutely.
Like even as parents, right? We have those conversations all the time wondering like, is this landing anywhere? And I think what it does is leaves an imprint, right? It might not totally settle into their conscious and the light switch flips immediately, but it leaves an imprint that they'll revisit at some point, right? So even if they make a bad decision, they'll go back to it and be like, oh yeah, she was right. He was right. Oh, Dad was right.
Yes.
Hopefully.
How many times have we done that as adults? Went back and went, oh, I remember now.
Yeah.
Mom was right.
Too many.
I had the conversation with a student yesterday that wanted to drop out. And I said, I'm going to tell you, just because you drop out doesn't mean that you're going to be unsuccessful in life. You can still be successful as a dropout, but you will regret that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's a huge milestone.
Yeah. And I said, so if you drop out, come see me in 15, 20 years when I'm old and gray and tell me I should have listened, because you're going to think back to this absolute conversation today and go, she was right.
Yeah.
But you can't project that.
No.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're teenagers.
They only see what's right in front of them.
Right.
Me too.
Actually, same.
So at your school, you guys, you changed the environment. So just the aesthetics and the feel and softer teachers. And then you said the important part of building trust is the relationships. That's quite different probably from any school they're coming from or whatever situation they're coming from. And you have to do that quickly, right? Or you kind of lose them right off the bat. How are you guys building those relationships and that trust so quick? Either methods or people or, what's making that happen for you guys?
Learn their names, first of all.
It's big.
And greet them with their name every morning, even the new kids. And if you don't know their names, fake it and greet them, until you learn their names, and then find out things that they're interested in, just developing those relationships. Making sure that your staff, I have the best staff in the whole world, making sure that your staff is compatible with what your beliefs are as well. So, we went 2 years without having a math teacher. We had applicants, but the ones that we were interviewing weren't going to be good for our kids. And they knew math and they had that degree, but we knew those personalities. There's no way. Yeah. One person, especially being so tiny, can change that atmosphere so fast. So the kids know. They'll tell you. I tell my students I love you a lot. I hug them. I know that's not supposed to do that. Sometimes they need a hug.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they come in and want the hug first, so just them understanding they believe in us, and we're not perfect. We do have kids that slide through the cracks, but having them understand that they are 100% believed in and loved, and no judgment. And if you make mistakes, we're going to brush ourselves off and we're going to start over.
Does most of your staff have some sort of elementary experience in their career?
No.
No. Okay. I was just curious if.
I'm trying to think of. I don't think any of them do.
Oh.
I think they were all high school.
Fair enough.
My teaching degree is K-8, but then I have a principal and superintendent certificate. So that's why I thought they were going to beat me up. Because now they're high school kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't need me to tie their shoes, and they don't love me the way that those fourth graders did.
And yet they do, though, deep down, right? They just, they want the same things.
Most of
little
them
kids.
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's transition a little bit. One of the things that, we've started becoming passionate about as a organization, and I learned from Chris that you're also very passionate about this, very involved in anti-human trafficking and getting in the fight of trafficking and the sexual exploitation of children. Let's go on that journey here for a minute on, what got you involved, the work you're doing within the Yavapai County organization, because the one thing we know for sure statistically with the schools that we run is that we definitely have students that either have been or are at risk of being trafficked in some way. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on our podcast was just to continue to bring awareness to this issue and, just further educate people on how widespread of a problem this is and how we as just everyday citizens can get involved.
I will say real quick, if I may, Kelly did a training, a PD for all our staff at the end of last week. And I thought I was aware of things, human trafficking, but it really opened my eyes to just so much more. I mean, it's unbelievable. So whatever, she's about to tell us it's going to be enlightening. It's going to be educational and likely to open a lot of people's eyes on really the impact that trafficking is having on our communities, rural communities and big communities like we're in. It's there.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry if I get emotional sometimes.
No, that's okay.
I do have to say thank you for being, as educators in a school, thank you for being open to this subject, because we've met a lot of resistance in schools. I think it's a scary subject. It's an uncomfortable topic. It's very difficult to share with staff, especially if they have their own trauma. And a lot of times it's a closed door, like that's not happening here, and people are resistant to it. So it's very commendable that you're open to bringing this and educating others about this subject, because it is very, very much in our schools. And as teachers and bus drivers and food service and principals and counselors and school nurses, we all see these kids more than most of the people in the world see them. And we can, number one, prevent it if possible. And number two, identify if we find that we've got a student that might be at risk or embedded in this type of situation at home or outside of home. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom Boltz is, he's retired now, darn it, with the Yavapai County Sheriff's Department. Missy Sakura is part of one of the community organizations up in Prescott Valley area, Family Advocacy Center. And then Vienna Welch is a juvenile probation officer. The three of them approached me back in 2016 when I had first taken over and asked if they could come in to do a presentation on anti-human trafficking for educators in our area. They had just developed the program and they needed a guinea pig. And I was like, well, that is not happening here, but I need to fill about an hour and a half of our PD day. Come on in. And I was so grateful. But I thought, sure, come on in. There's nothing but within 20 minutes of their presentation, I see teachers over in the corner talking to each other. And I'm thinking, this is so rude. Hush. This is a very scary subject. And they raised their hand, one of them, and said, I think we've got a victim. Whew. And she was a victim. She had been sold by her mom and to a local real estate agent and had been in that life for 4 years. And just in 20 minutes of that, just the signs, she was identified. And I realized at that moment, we have a problem. And it's not just because I have the alternative kids.
Right.
That's what I've come to learn. It is in elementary schools. It is family members. It is outside family members. It is strangers. But every single one of our kids is at risk for it. And I realized at that moment, we can't give up on this. So I've been very adamant that all of our staff know the signs, and they're very much into it as well, learning and spreading their knowledge, and most importantly, watching our students and listening to those side conversations, being aware of the signs and understanding, possible risks that they're seeing. So
The scary part, it's all scary, but when I as a dad, right, I have 2 teenage daughters, and I've heard various stories of how this happens, and it's only gotten worse as teens being digitally connected with iPhones and stuff like that has become more prevalent, like through these gaming apps, through social media, the influence and the way that these predators are able to reach them, right? I can build up as much of a fort as I can to keep outsiders out, but there's still that access through them, through these different digital platforms, that's just accelerating this whole problem.
And now with AI, the predators can, one of the tricks that they use, especially in young children or teenage kids, is that they are in constant communication with them, constant communication. So now with AI, they can build algorithms where it looks like they're still in constant communication with a human, but it's AI. And so now they don't get a break at all, because as humans, you could take a break sleeping and, going to work and things like that. But now it's a constant, AI has embedded itself in, these predators are able to use AI to keep that constant communication with those kids. They don't get a break from it. And they can set the algorithms to comment in response to whatever the kid had said previously. And we're about to see AI. I hope that they can find some sort of identification of this, but right now it's wide open and it's helping the bad guys.
Yeah, just the speed that it can move.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have hundreds of victims that one person is exploiting
Absolutely.
because of the speed and scale that an AI bot could be set up.
So I have a question just about the environment itself, especially in the state of Arizona. After this session on Friday, I have a daughter who works on a college campus. So I'd said, hey, you guys should really consider doing a training like this for your resident directors. And I could tell she was thinking, I don't think that's happening here. What's the college terrain looking like in human trafficking? Do you have any idea?
So Dominique Rowe-Sepowitz is part of ASU's team, and she is phenomenal. And she is part of the human trafficking team with ASU, and she does so many trainings. She's nationally known around the country. She's sought after. She's gone to Hawaii. Hawaii didn't have any problems at all with human trafficking there until Dominique showed up and helped them realize you absolutely have a problem here. So she is with ASU, and I think that, she does a lot of different community events where she's helping identify victims and helping them get out. It's very difficult to have a victim, especially an adult, exit the life when they have been embedded in it for so long. And Dominique does a very, very good job of making those connections and setting up different resources for them.
Okay.
So ASU is on it, very well on it. And what a gift they have with Dominique and her team. I don't know about any of the others.
Okay. But it doesn't, just because those are typically over the age of 18 pursuing an education, I'm assuming that doesn't mean it's not prevalent still.
Oh no, college students are very high risk for that, because a lot of times college students are very poor, and that's the way to get in, earn some money, and then they get involved in that lifestyle and they can't get out because of coercion and threats and everything that comes with it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but Dominique doesn't work just with the college students at ASU. She has a team that goes out and works with the community in general. And she's done work up in Yavapai County. She's done work, like I said, in Hawaii. So she's tackling more than just college students.
Right.
For other educators and parents that listen to our show, what are some of the things they should be looking for?
Apps, watching what apps their kids are on. And those apps change all the time. I know TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat are very, very open doors for predators for our kids. But for those three, there's 500 others, and there's new ones every single day. So my thought would be reach out to your community resources. A lot of times the police departments have different people that are assigned to human trafficking and education of anti-human trafficking, things like that. Apps, their social media, all of that. That's where most of them are going to come in. Watch boyfriends and girlfriends. Watch where they're at night. Keep Life 360 on there if you can, on your kids' devices. Educate yourself. Dominique Rowe-Sepwitz, I mentioned, she's part of Project Starfish. And if you go to her website, she's got a lot of resources for parents. But literally, I mean, it's so prevalent right now. It's such a very well-known topic right now that there's so many resources out there online that you can find that will help with, parents who might be wanting to educate themselves a little bit more about it.
Not trying to oversimplify how to protect our kids, but if you actually, as a parent, decide your children aren't going to have phones, iPads, technology, is that going to do it?
No, they can still get it. So educating them, having those conversations with them about keeping themselves safe, different techniques that the bad people use on them, empowering your kid to understand, these are a lot of times lies that people are telling you, and helping them identify predator behavior, different phrases, different ways of reaching out, behaviors. A lot of times they will groom them for a couple of years if they need to, become their best friend. And then all of a sudden they turn the page and they're a completely different person. But that kid is already invested in that relationship because they have, for 2 years, they felt comfortable with that person. And that's my best friend. And I mean, this person lives in such and such state. I've never met them, but they're still my best friend. And they would never do that to me.
Right.
Bad guys will get them no matter what. So they just have to you need to empower your kids to understand different behaviors.
Yeah. And I would say, for parents out there, educating yourself on, the parental controls on the device. For example, like my kids can't install an app unless I approve it. And making the investment in the additional apps for parental control and monitoring. The $15 or $20 a month, it's worth it. So that you can see what's going on. And at first you're going to feel like you're spying on your kids. But once you realize how prevalent and how aggressive these predators are, you'll quickly realize that the $15 or $20 a month is no big deal, right? It's worth that. And even at that, it's still not going to stop everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And even after our training last week that you did for our staff, when you're out in public, it certainly puts a different lens on everybody you're kind of interacting with and seeing and walking around, and you're like, okay.
Everybody becomes a suspect.
I might have been extra paranoid this weekend.
Who do I need to save today?
Can't go to the grocery store.
Which is probably
anymore.
right. Which is probably, we need more of that. We need more people out there looking and getting in the fight. And that doesn't mean like serving justice, even though I'd like to. But
It's
being
every community.
Yeah, being able to ask the questions, knowing who to call when you're suspicious, like all of those are really important things.
And it's better to err on the side of caution and falsely accuse than it is to blow it off and let it go on. I would much rather be accused of something and show that I'm innocent than be doing something, and a child is at risk. So as a parent, I think that you would appreciate somebody being extra cautious about your children.
Yeah.
They falsely accuse you of something. It's okay because they had my kid's best interest in mind.
Right.
I think you showed us a video that it was an undercover operation, but there were people just walking by, and they haven't been trained in anything. They probably weren't even really aware of human trafficking, but something felt off. You could tell just because they kept looking.
Exactly.
Something's off there, but I don't know what. But they just kept walking. So I think that's an important thing, that people don't have to know everything about this. Trust your gut.
Yes.
Be bold enough to say something.
Absolutely.
And then if you're wrong, you're wrong. Admit you're wrong and move on. You're just trying to do the best thing. But I think it's really important for people to realize they don't have to know it all.
Right.
Just go with your
and
gut.
understanding body language is embedded in us as human beings. You've been in situations where somebody makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Listen to it. I'd rather that you listen to that and either get away from that situation, whatever situation it is, or help who's ever involved that needs to be helped, than just blow it off. Because as humans, we've been taught to be kind and compassionate to each other, and to blow off the thought of, oh, that could be a bad guy. You know, there's been so many times for example, my grandmother had this cousin that was one of her favorite cousins in the whole world. And he would come up, he lived in Nebraska and we lived in South Dakota, and he had horses, and I love horses. And so I was so connected to him. I just loved them so much until as a young child, I started feeling very uncomfortable around him, and he never did anything to me, but I know that there was something there. I know that there was. We took a horseback ride one time. This was the turning point for me, just as a small kid. We took a horseback ride one time, and it was just he and I, and he made me hold his hand the entire horseback ride. He was on a horse and I was on a horse. And it was red flags in my head that went, stay away from him. I couldn't put it in words, and I never reported it to my mom. But I know that my instincts were stay away from him. And I know that he was grooming. I know that now. I can see that. So those instincts of go give your uncle a hug, and your kid doesn't want to, don't make your kid go give your uncle a hug. If your kid doesn't want to, maybe they're just shy and there's nothing wrong with that person, but maybe there's not. Maybe there's something else going on that kid is picking up on, because kids are very intuitive.
Yeah.
Very much so.
To that stuff.
So if there's, kind of that gut feeling and you see someone that you suspect might be in danger, what are some practical ways to approach that, questions to ask, that kind of stuff?
I would not approach the possible perpetrator yourself. I would call law enforcement and report what you see. Hopefully somebody on staff is very well versed in the human trafficking. Most of the law enforcement agencies now are very well aware of the signs of human trafficking. But if you can get any identifiable information, license plates, what they're wearing, what you're seeing, write all of that down. Don't approach them yourself. Ask, call 911. There's also a hotline that you can call. I don't know. I don't have it memorized, but I shared it in those videos and the PowerPoint that I had. Personally, I would, like if it was in Walmart or something like that, try to secretly follow them, kind of. I'm trying to think of what I would do. But it's a very difficult situation when you find yourself in that position. And I'll tell you a story. I had been doing this training for about 7 years or 8 years. And I went to St. Louis I was actually speaking on human trafficking at this conference. And I was standing in line in this hotel, and there was a wall of windows there. And I look out, and it overlooked the area where you drop your car off, and valet takes it, and you can unload your luggage and things like that, and you can go check in. And I see a car, and I think, that's human trafficking right there. I could identify the car. It was 2 men in the front, 2 girls in the back. The girl gets out. One of the girls gets out in a pretty scant outfit. She had some items in a Safeway or plastic bag, a Walmart bag or something like that. And she walked into the hotel. And I told myself, that's human trafficking right there. I just saw it. I cannot believe I saw it right in front of my face. And I grabbed my coffee and I went around the corner and I shared an elevator with her. And I could say nothing because I froze. Because I've been trained in this, but I'd not been trained in, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I see it in front of me right now. It was just her and I in that elevator. And I said nothing because I did not know what to do. I froze. And I think about her a lot because I think, where is she now? I could have saved her. She could have, she was, I don't know how old she was. She was right on the cusp of, she could have been 22 years old. She could have been 17 years old. I don't know. But I didn't know what to do.
You've replayed that in your mind, I'm sure.
1,000 times.
So now, what would you have done now that you've had all this time to think about it?
I would approach her. She was her and I alone. I would approach her, and then I'd probably follow her to the room. Or I would secretly follow her to the room and then call the police. If I was wrong, I was wrong. I don't think I was wrong in that moment. But I'd like to say I probably would have followed her and then called the police and let them know what room she was in. I don't know what they could have done, but definitely I would have called the hotline. There's so many different things I could have done in that moment, and I did not. The next year, my assistant principal went up there, and I told her, it was at the same hotel, and I said, watch, there's human trafficking going on in that hotel. And she called me, and she was like elevated on the phone. You'll never believe it. I just saw human trafficking in front of my face, but it was a SWAT team, and they took down a car. And so obviously the hotel had learned, and they were on it, So I thought, in my mind, I hope it was the girl that I shared that room with that was saved. So you got to prepare yourself for, like, if you're in that situation, because I've been trained in it for so many years, and I froze.
Yeah, and I would guess in so many of those situations, right, you could ask the question, like, are you in danger? Are you okay? Those kinds of things. But they may not even see it that way.
They may not see it, and they may not admit it if they do see it, because they're so petrified.
And you're also at some level putting yourself at risk.
Absolutely.
For being pulled into a situation. Yeah, so I'm sure that was running through your mind at the same time.
Yeah, it's there's so many things that, they tell you don't approach people and don't do this and don't do that. So you have to keep your safety in mind. But at the same time, I could have done something. Yeah, I'll never forget that girl.
It's a heavy topic.
It is.
Yeah. We experienced the same thing last week when we got through the training. Like, everybody was like, whoa. And then we immediately followed that up with mandatory reporting training. But I will say that from your presentation and the mandatory reporting training, there were some alarm bells going off for a couple people of some situations that I think one in particular was they went and reported right away.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that's the goal.
And if you can save one,
yeah,
just one, it's all worth it.
Yeah. And I think that applies even to the work we do with students who have dropped out. It's like, if we can just keep one
right
in the mix and get them across the stage, the power of that, the ripple effect in society of that. And I think that ripple gets even bigger when you are able to save someone from being trafficked and abused in awful ways.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure your husband as a DPS officer is kind of steeped in this world too, and having to deal with this around the state.
Right.
Yeah.
DPS is really has really vested, I believe, in human trafficking training as well. But he gets the added adventure of having his wife at home. And he teaches me about body language. I teach him about human trafficking and identification and things like that. We bounce things off of each other well. So we're not perfect, but we are a powerhouse when it comes to that type of stuff. He has identified some on the interstate. Some don't even know that they're trafficked yet. They have little shoe cards. And when I say shoe cards, they're little tiny cards that will fit inside of a shoe. So a human trafficker can't, it was less likely that a perpetrator or a pimp or, whoever the bad guy is or woman won't see that they've got a hotline or something. So they call them shoe cards that they can stick in their shoes. He has handed those out. But sometimes when he's identified it, the person doesn't even know yet that they're about to be trafficked. So, and if they're adults, there's nothing that you can do except understand, he's said, are you okay? I want you to know if you're not okay, do this eventually, but.
Yeah. Wow.
Just recently, I don't know if it was DPS or if it was the sheriff's department over in Tucson or around Tucson. But just recently, they rescued a small child on the highway that was being trafficked by a woman. And she had her daughter, I believe, with her, and then this young boy. And that boy was being trafficked in the United States. It was very difficult to prove because There's no documentation of who she is and things like that, but they were able to identify it. So,
Wow.
so important for them to understand, the police departments, that this is happening. So
Yeah.
they're doing a good job.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else related to your career or the topic of human trafficking that we didn't touch on that we should?
Well, I mean, there's always something to learn with human trafficking. There's an hour worth of conversation doesn't even touch. Educate yourself, continue to educate yourself, because things are going to change constantly, especially with AI here and all the new technology that's going to be coming up. Who knows what it's going to look like in 10 years. But perpetrators and bad guys are going to find a way to get through that. And if we can stay on top of that as a society, it will be less likely.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, for anyone listening to this, right, if this, you know, puts a weight on your soul in any way, pursue it. Just learn more about it. Look up the various organizations that are just steeped in this work. There's many good ones, and find out how you can support them and receive their trainings on all these things so that you can be informed and able to, you know, identify it, report it.
It's so prevalent right now. It's such a topic that most communities have resources in their communities for this,
Yeah.
and professionals in those communities that will help. So that's the beauty. So all you have to do is Google
Yeah.
anti-human trafficking agencies, and I bet some of them will pop up. It's probably going to be family resource centers. It's going to be police departments, counseling services, and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, you've awakened a few of our staff in our organization who attended your training have sent me resources that they just went out and found on their own. So we'll collect those for our staff and our internal site that we have, and just keep it updated and keep it in front of mind. And it's easy to go months, and if you haven't thought about it, you forget about it. So I think we'll just keep it in front of our face.
And one of the key points with educators, if they're identifying, it's very, very important not to have them interview the kid. You know, don't ask them questions. Just write down the things that they've offered and then call for resources, because you don't want that child or human to have to relive that over and over and over. So call the appropriate authorities that can come and actually interview professionally and have the resources it takes to do that, because the last thing you want to do is re-traumatize these kids.
Yeah, and even in our mandatory reporting training, the attorney addressed that and how that can sometimes impede the investigation. And it's just better to like you said, take note and
Right.
follow through with your reporting responsibility, and then allow the authorities to take it from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Write down what they offer. Don't ask other questions. Hand it over to the pros.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is powerful work you do. And we're thankful for it. It's ignited in us a passion to jump into the fight where we can and bring awareness. And that was the goal for today as well, is to just continue to spread that awareness. And we appreciate you taking your time and driving down from Prescott to be in studio as opposed to Zoom.
And I appreciate all of you being willing. I appreciate that, you know, my boss will allow me to do this as well. He recognizes the importance of it, and my staff as well. So
Yeah.
very important topics.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
you.